In today's video, I want to go over some newly revealed information about CyberPunk 2077. While it is the next game from CD Projekt Red, if you're expecting an open-world game that is much bigger than their last game in Witcher 3, which was a massive open-world game in its own right, it's actually gonna be a little bit smaller of the game, but it's noted to be much denser than The Witcher 3's world. We'll talk exactly what the producer of the game told Games Radar. Also, Iron Harvest is making the transition to the PlayStation 4, and it'll be coming in September of 2020, so a long ways away, but cool to see that be announced for the PlayStation 4. The Surge 2 has gotten a gameplay overview trailer that gives us a lot of details of what to expect out of that game, and Metro Exodus Aurora Limited Edition is seeing a significant discount over on Best Buy right now. I want to highlight that as well because that is a great deal on a very good game, so we'll talk that at the end of this video. First up, let's talk all about Cyberpunk 2077, which has been one of the main talking points at Gamescom 2019, and we're going to see the Gamescom gameplay later this month on August 30th. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but also the producer of the game spoke to Games Radar, and here's what he said about the size of the world. He noted, quote, "If you look at pure surface in terms of square kilometers, then Cyberpunk 2077 might even be a little bit smaller than The Witcher 3, but it's the density of the content, taking the world of The Witcher and squeezing it right in, deleting the wilderness between. Obviously, in The Witcher, we were an open world with vast lanes and forests in between smaller cities and larger cities like Novigrad, but in Cyberpunk 2077, we're set in Night City. It's an integral part of the setting. It's essentially a protagonist, if you want to call it that, so it has to be denser. It wouldn't give us the end effect we wanted to achieve if the city wouldn't be believable, so we packed it with life." Now, that might actually upset some people in the sense that Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out, what, 5 years after the release of The Witcher 3, and even in square kilometers, if you look at it that sense, it is a smaller game. However, this notion that open world games should just get bigger and bigger year after year isn't something that is sustainable. Witcher 3 is a massive game, and if you continue to grow these games and make them bigger and bigger, all you're doing is diluting the game. You want sometimes to have more of a contained gaming environment, and we've seen that with a lot of games. A lot of games try to go the open world route, and it actually hinders the game more so than it helps it. In the case of Cyberpunk 2077, it's still gonna be an open world game, and it's gonna be a huge game. However, all of these years of additional experience that CD Projekt Red has, it's not being implemented in, say, just making the world much bigger. Rather, it's to create a more alive world, and in the case of Cyberpunk 2077, and considering that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be set in this alive world of Night City, they want to do the best job possible in making that city feel immersive and making it feel alive, and you really can't do that if you're just making the game bigger and bigger, because how are you supposed to implement that element of being alive into this gigantic open world? I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but at that point, it is such a significant undertaking where, in the case of Cyberpunk 2077, the game has already been in development for a very long time. Do you want them to make the game significantly larger and at the same time also have that sense of being in a live world? That's very difficult to do, and in this case, I think the open world being a little bit smaller or comparable to the size of Witcher 3, but in the case of this one being a lot denser, that makes a lot of sense given what CD Projekt Red's endgame is for the quality of Cyberpunk 2077. Again, the game will be out April 16th, and if you are not satisfied with what you've been seeing, we're going to be getting more gameplay of the title at the end of this month, August 30th, I believe 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and I think it works out to 8 p.m. CST. Don't quote me on that. We talked about it in the last video, so go back and watch that if you're interested. Alright, moving on from that, Iron Harvest is scheduled to make the transition to the PlayStation 4. That was announced by publisher Deep Silver and developer King Art Games, and it will be coming September 1st, 2020, so it's still a long ways away, but that was announced during the Gamescom 2019 opening night live show. This is a real-time strategy game, which is going to be interesting to see how it makes the transition to the PlayStation 4. The PC version isn't out either, but PC and real-time strategy games just go hand in hand on the PlayStation 4. It's always a little bit of a selling point whenever I talk about a game that's a real-time strategy. However, Iron Harvest does look to be a very compelling game. It's a real-time strategy title set in the alternate reality of 1920s history. Just after the end of the Great War, they asked over 15,000 real-time strategy fans in a big survey what they wanted to expect from a modern RTS, and we are in constant contact with the community. Our goal is to make the real-time strategy fans a game they actually want. It notes classic real-time strategy at its finest, lead dozens of different unit types into battle, carefully utilize cover, and blast entire buildings to shreds. Take your time to come up with a plan which allows for a wide range of tactics, including a stealth approach, mechs, there's mechs in the game as well, lots of them, strong single-player campaign, and engaging story with more than 20 missions over 3 campaigns. Join 9 charismatic heroes and their beastly companions in their adventures across Europe, and you can also team up with a a friend and master all campaigns side by side in cooperative play. You're gonna be in full control, command 3 diverse factions with over 40 unit types and 9 heroes with unique abilities, set up skirmish and multiplayer matches any way you want, configure your personal game interface, and choose your favorite input controls. It also notes intense co-op and competitive multiplayer combat, build and fortify your base, and there's a life after release. Brace yourself for free downloadable content and regular updates after release. So, while the game is still a long ways away, there is a sizable amount of gameplay out right now, and the game does look really interesting. I just hope, again, it makes a smooth transition to the PlayStation 4, and the question will remain, it's a September 2020 release on the PlayStation 4. Whenever we're getting to that time period, one would have to think, could this end up being a PlayStation 5 game? Could it end up seeing a dual release on PS4 and PS5? Whatever the case may be, right now it is confirmed for PlayStation 4 come September 1st, 2020. Alright, next up, how about September of 2019? There are a lot of compelling games coming out next month, and one of them that I'm very interested in is Deck 13's The Surge 2, and we've gotten a brand new gameplay overview trailer that shows off the fast-paced tactical combat with satisfying executions and meaningful choices. Publisher Focus Home Interactive and developer Deck 13 have released a gameplay overview trailer for The Surge 2, and it notes, fast-paced tactical combat returns with satisfying executions and meaningful choices for each encounter based on which equipment you wish to gather, equip, and upgrade. Now, the gameplay overview trailer gives us a good idea of what to expect out of the game. It's about 4.5 minutes long, so a sizable amount of gameplay, and shows off a lot of the stylish gameplay, a lot of the customizability options, and it looks like there's quite a bit of depth to the game as well. Now, The Surge 1 was a game that I definitely enjoyed, and it was a follow-up title. It was Deck 13's second game after Lords of the Fallen, and I think The Surge built upon a lot of the successes of Lords of the Fallen. Hopefully with The Surge 2, they could deliver something incredibly compelling here. Now, I know that these games are just inherently going to see a lot of comparisons to Dark Souls and the From Software titles, and the From Software titles are elite in terms of game design and game development. There are some of the best games that are released year-round, and it would be hard for a game like The Surge 2 to hit that caliber level. However, if they do want to get into the mainstream, I think The Surge 2 has to be that high quality of a game. Could they do it? Absolutely. Again, Deck 13's games, I feel, have been progressively getting better, and with The Surge 2, I think there's a lot of potential here. The visuals look great, and the overview of the story is pretty interesting as well. I want to read you guys a little bit of an excerpt out of it. On the way to Jericho City, your plane is shot down by a mysterious storm and crash lands in the outskirts. You wake up weeks later in a detention facility inside the city. Armor-clad soldiers enforce martial law, robots are on a rampage, and a dark, expanding nanostorm looms over the cityscape. And also, of course, while this game does see comparisons to Dark Souls, much different in terms of presentation and the general lore surrounding the game, more of a sci-fi twist to it, and definitely engaging in that sense. The Surge 2 is due out on September 24th, so it's actually coming out later in September, and it's not absolutely packed with game releases around that window. Rather, the game releases are really coming on early in September with Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Greedfall, and Borderlands 3, all major RPG releases. Those are earlier on in September rather than later in September, which is when The Surge 2 is going to come out, so I do think that is going to be a positive element in terms of the release. And lastly, I do want to quickly note that Metro Exodus's Aurora Limited Edition is down to $45 over on Best Buy. If you have your GCU subscription intact, you can utilize this. I've talked about Metro Exodus quite a bit. It is a good game, and with the Aurora Limited Edition, not only do you get the base game, but you also get the expansion pass, and the expansions are dropping very soon. An exclusive steelbook, the World of Metro art book, which is very nice because the art in the game is beautiful, a metal outer case, and dynamic PlayStation theme based on Metro Exodus's winter artwork. $45 for that is really good given that it did release at a $90 price point, so that's 50% off. That's generally the percentage off that the base game is also going for these days, so it makes a lot of sense. There is some parity in that. However, the expansion pass really doesn't go on sale, so if you want Metro Exodus and the additional content, this probably is your best way to get it. Essentially, think of it paying $30 for the base game, getting the expansion pass for $15, and then getting a bunch of other nice goodies on top of that, so that's a pretty good deal. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, Cyberpunk 2077's open world is said to be smaller but much denser than The Witcher 3, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the final game. Iron Harvest is coming to PlayStation 4 on September 1st, 2020. The Surge 2 gets a gameplay overview trailer, and Metro Exodus's Aurora Limited Edition is discounted heavily on Best Buy right now. Link to that in the description box below. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.